This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Kristin Vierra. She's a remote career and lifestyle coach. I'm happy to welcome Kristin to the podcast.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
Hey, Kristin, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you today?
Good. Where are you calling in from?
Well, I'm currently visiting the U.S., so I am in San Francisco, California, which was my home before Latin America.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So from San Francisco, you began a life living abroad starting 6 years ago with a solo backpacking trip through Central America, which inspired you to move to Buenos Aires and then moving on to Spain as well. So a lot of your background has been in, Latin America and Spanish-speaking countries. And now you are a remote career and lifestyle coach. You help people, I guess, figure out the nomadic lifestyle, how to get remote jobs and everything like that. Is that about right?
Sí, es verdad. That is exactly it. And yeah, it's crazy to be back here because living here is when I took the leap to go to Central America and backpack that inspired all of that journey you just described.
Amazing. And I always like at the start of the episode to mention how kind of people get connected. So I got introduced to you through Desmond Dixon, previous podcast guest. He did the episode talking a lot about sales. We talked a bit about Brazil. So Desmond got me connected with Kristin.
Yes, and thanks to this lifestyle, Desmond and I also connected.
Did you guys meet in person?
No, we've been virtual friends for over a year, and our travel paths have yet to cross. They almost did, but not quite yet.
Interesting. Okay, so I want to hit you with a bit of a juicy question to start, which is I was looking at your LinkedIn and I noticed that you worked for like a professional life coach company. It's called Ama La Vida, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And I was just curious kind of what the kind of how that all works because you worked with them for a couple of years according to your LinkedIn, and then you branched off to now be your own kind of independent brand of remote work coach. But I'm kind of curious if you could give us some insight to the industry of the like career coaching industry, because we haven't had someone specifically from this industry on the podcast yet.
Yeah, such a great question and so important because a lot of people aren't fully clear, and it's fair on what coaching is, right? There's so many different niches now. But I started my coaching journey living in Buenos Aires, and I was inspired through different career experiences that were challenging that I navigated to become a career coach. And thank like networking, thankful for that is how I found Amala Vida through a friend in my network. And so career coaching is basically it's a blended coaching. Pure coaching is just powerful questioning to help someone uncover the answers that lie within. When you bring in career coaching, it's a mix of that, but it's also guidance and strategy, of course, because a job search takes that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mix of that powerful questioning to help others kind of uncover what it is they really want and the guidance to go after that in the career sphere. So in making big career decisions, making huge career changes or transitions, or even just like deciding your job is not for you and wanting to go for something similar, but not knowing how to go about it.
And how does the company, what's their business proposition, or how do they have like a stack of coaches and then they have clients and they're kind of like a middleman?
Yeah. I was with them in the early phases. I think we were a team of 5 to 7 when I started of coaches, and now it's grown a ton. But it's a mix of career leadership and other branches of coaching, life as well. And exactly, there's corporate clients, there's one on one clients, and it's a matter of matching the need of the client to a coach who best fits that need. So there's definitely like process in place to do that, but it's definitely getting to know deeply what the client is there for to get support and matching them to the best type of coaching and the best coach for them.
Hmm. And then at some point you decided, you know what, I've learned the business. Now I'm going to go off on my own and be, build a brand and be my own career coach.
Yeah, I'm extremely grateful for that, for Amala Vida and for the team. I really love being a part of a team of coaches, and the leaders there are awesome. So I couldn't have found a better company when I decided to grow in becoming a coach and get certified. And after a few years, it was just that next step of my growth journey where I was like, wow, I have this deep passion. Like travel and living abroad has changed my life. Like I've navigated these intense career experiences and learned so much, and also learned through working at a career coaching company and grown as a career coach. And I just knew I wanted to create something of my own, and to blend all these passions. And that's literally what my business is now, which it was through the journey living abroad and personal experiences that really molded what I now coach. And
Mm.
something I really believe in as a coach is that you have to embody what you're coaching. And that's one of my core principles as a coach. And everything I coach, I've lived basically. So I really believe that that's so important to guide someone on a journey.
Yeah, that's cool. And so as a career coach, you mentioned that there are certifications. Is it possible to get certified as a career coach or lifestyle coach?
Yes, very possible. And there's growing programs for it. I am always recommending. I actually have clients who decide to go the coaching path, and I'm able to guide them on that journey as well. And there's so many different programs now offered, uh, and it's basically you go through a
Who's
the
it
pro-
by? Like who does it?
so I can share mine, which was so I was living in Buenos Aires when I decided to get certified, right, and to become a coach and
Uh-huh.
to go this path. So I was researching all these different coaching certification programs, and there were very few at this time. This was pre remote reality for the world, right? That were remote or that offered the time zone I was in. But I found one that's called International Coach Academy. I believe it's Australian, like founders,
Hmm.
and it offered, you basically got to pick your courses, and join based on your time zone. So it was remote, and it gave me the flexibility to do it in the way that I could stay in Buenos Aires and like go through that process for about a year plus, just over a year, I think. And you can also decide your pace. And it was perfect, and I still recommend it to others. What I loved about it is because I was abroad, and travel and just international living was a core part also of what guided me to want to become a coach. And this program was spread across the world. So I was in classes with people from all over, and you get peer coaches that you practice with. And some of my peer coaches were in like Italy, and I had some in Argentina, and that was just I mean, that's why I'm such an advocate for the program, because that was also a core part of my coaching.
It's interesting. I ask because I'm almost like a unofficial career and lifestyle coach, like
Okay.
through what we do at My Latin Life. So I'm like, I'm just kind of curious how the professional side of the industry works.
If you're looking for a program, I highly recommend ICA, and I can send you the info too.
All right. I know there's lots of Twitter coaches who listen to
Mhm.
this who are whatever fitness coaches and stuff, and so there's
Yeah,
certifications out there.
I think this is like a hot topic, like coaching as an industry, and I have a lot of opinions on it that I don't necessarily need to get into in detail, but I do believe like that I believe education is important, right? Before we label ourselves as something, or just, I mean, I think there's a lot of pieces to it, but I'm someone who's very a core have a lot of values and integrity and honesty, and so knowing that I wanted to grow into this while I lived a journey that I felt really equipped me to be a coach, I knew there's fundamentals I need to learn, and that's what the certification really supported me with, is really understanding the fundamentals of coaching, and like what is and what is not coaching. And you also learn just so much about yourself through the program.
Interesting. Yeah, I could definitely keep asking questions about this. I wonder if this is boring for a lot of the audience that's not interested in coaching as a discipline, but I'm gonna I'm gonna ask one more question because I do want to prod you about coaching as an industry because it'll lead as a good segue into how to start making money online, working online, etc. But coaching has become one of the best ways to make money online, and it's been a lot of people's path towards a more free and location independent life. They're doing coaching for fitness or dating or real estate coaching or crypto coaching, right? There's a lot of different coaching disciplines out there. So I would love to hear your um, some hot takes you might have on the industry.
Yeah, I think the industry is growing. Like when I started with Amala Vida, they were one of, like you said, you don't know of many companies like that, right? They were one of the few, I feel, they're based in Chicago or even based in the US, coaching companies I'd even known about. And now it's grown so much. I mean, I think the beauty is coaching is here to help and guide people on their journeys for whatever those, I mean, there's so many niches now, right? For whatever that need is of the individual. And that it's opening up, just like therapy. It's not the same at all, but there are similarities, but it allows people to ask for help and to feel safe to do that now that it's growing and people are more aware of it, and to receive guidance or help from those who have, you know, expertise. But no pure coaching is not telling someone what to do whatsoever. It's powerful questioning that incites what's already within that individual so they can make the decision that's best for themselves based on their intuition, based on their inner compass. So, pure coaching is not at all giving your opinion or guidance. It's helping someone come to their own answers through space, powerful questioning, and actively listening to your client.
Hmm.
So
So what do you think are
there's a
like some of the
lot
most
to this area.
profitable? Yeah, let's get to the money side a bit. Like, what are some of the most profitable niches, or have trends changed maybe in the past couple of years, or are you seeing new trends emerge now? On the cusp of 2024, after we're maybe in like the post COVID Zoom era, and we're kind of we've kind of got things more dialed in now.
Yeah, I think I don't actually know specifically what niches are most profitable. I mean, there's so many different types of coaches and so many different pricing models, right? But what I'm fully aware of is that it's like grown a ton, and there's a lot of different types of coaches out there now. I feel like you can find a coach for almost any need if you search. I think the challenging thing for clients, and this is what I notice with clients that I start to work with, is trust, because of how much this space is growing. It's trusting, and that's why I think as coaches it's our responsibility to show up responsibly and ethically, so that the space doesn't get like, so people trust in the service we're providing, um, and that's what I think is an area that's shifting a bit because of how it's growing and how people are showing up differently.
Okay, cool. I like it. Well, I guess let's move on to remote work topics. A lot of people are at that point where they're in Canada or the USA, and they're like, you know what, I'm kind of tired of this. I would really like to make some money online and go travel the world, right? I think that's a common dream. So how do we get people who maybe they don't have a clear structure or vision of how to do that? How would you bring that person up to speed and get them making money online?
Yeah, I think I deeply believe in fulfillment. That's part of why one of my principles is coaching people into finding fulfilling work. So it's just not to get a remote job, say to make the money. It's more like, what is something you're going to enjoy while living this lifestyle, right? Because no matter where you are, you want to be happy in your work, you know? Like you don't want to be in Rio with the beach right there and then miserable on your laptop all day. Um, so for me, it's a process of diving deeper into the individual and understanding, helping them understand core pieces of themselves to match that and align it to a work that fulfills them and excites them that they can do remotely. So, kind of finding that fulfilling remote career. And of course, this is like a process, which is why it's a coaching journey, but it's a step by step. But the first is diving into themselves to kind of dig into passions, strengths, um, kind of even we go into the overall purpose, like their feeling of what purpose is for them, and aligning it to work that is offered remotely.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and so once the clarity is there, which I always say is the most important first step, you've got to know what you want to have strategy, right? And when we were talking, I'll blend what we were talking about coaching with this is the early part of the process is very much the peer coaching. So powerful questioning, tools and resources to help someone uncover what it is that excites them, to get confident about what they want, right? That clarity. Then is when the blended coaching comes in, and that's when the guidance and strategy. So it's okay, so now here's what you want. Like, let's make a plan for how you're going to go after this, right? And for some, that might be additional education, it might be skill building. Uh, the path can look unique for everyone. For others, it might be a pivot. And so it's basically repositioning their skills to target something new or to go after this role remotely when they're doing it, say, in office or hybrid. So then it's all job search strategy to really go after landing the job, and knowing where to look for the job, knowing strategies to stand out, all of those career focused pieces.
Okay. So, what are some of the best um, career tracks? Like, if someone says, I'm kind of down for whatever, like, will make me money fast.
Yeah, I mean, making money, it depends. So, the best career track depends on the person. Going back to this, everyone, like, they, it's not, and this is like, for me, it's all about fulfillment. It's not just about, like, if someone just wants a remote job to get a remote job, I'm not necessarily the best coach for them because for me it's about like what is a job that will make you happy that you want to grow your career in, right? That's more my vibe as a coach. But either way, like there's such like engineering is a profitable field, right? And it's a remote job, right? So that is a great space if someone's wanting to make higher income levels remotely. Um, there's so many roles also in marketing, and depending how quickly you grow, you can be very profitable, but you can be super profitable in different industries, in different roles. It also depends on your seniority level, your experience level. Uh, and then, I mean, if you want to grow really fast, independent work is a way to do that remotely, right? Like
And
starting your
independent
own
work
business.
means freelance or something.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we can definitely explore both those paths. Working for someone else versus being independent.
Mhm.
Um, let's just say someone with no technical skills. They're not really down to become a programmer. They don't see that in their future being like super technical, but maybe they want to, I don't know, do like customer support or sales or be like a business operations person, something like that. Like, how would you take someone like that and maybe you're crafting their resume with them, maybe you're helping them build their LinkedIn, maybe you're giving them some potential career tracks?
Yeah, so first it's getting like there's infinite possibilities for roles, right? Like you just listed out multiple. So with them, it's narrowing down those options. And that's again going back to clarity. So them getting clear on which of those it is that they really want to go after, and then creating the plan on based on where they're at in their skill level, um, what their experience is so far, and what they need to get there to target a job like that, right? So this is why it's so unique for each person and the path they choose, because as we know, different jobs require different levels of experience, different expertise. For example, like customer service, a lot of people can enter remote work quickly with that if they have the basic skill set, and can there's a lot of customer service roles that are remote, but they may be like a lower pay level, right? Until you grow and maybe move up and move up in that specific role. So it highly depends on the path that's chosen and a person's skill level, and it's and education level can apply, but I really don't believe that that's as important as experience now in the career world.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by Language Blend, the new best way to learn Spanish. Language Blend focuses on what you actually need to live and get by abroad with daily one-on-one lessons, a dedicated texting partner. It's like living in a Spanish-speaking country without ever leaving home. Go to languageblend.com for more information. Okay. So, what could someone do to start building their portfolio, building their experience to sort of craft a good narrative? Let's just say they don't have that experience in I guess it depends what discipline, but let's just say they're coming from something unrelated. Let's just say they were a
Hmm.
construction worker in the US, or like a daycare teacher or something, right? Like something unrelated to making money online or even using a laptop most of the day. You want to start building up their profile, their narrative?
Yeah, it's first getting clear on what are they building towards, right? What is it? What's the narrative they want to write? What's the vision? And then it is starting to build and create that story. So, especially if it's coming from no experience, say, it's possibly internships or um, online well, a great thing for remote is there's a lot of online trainings that teach you remote skill sets, right? So really building that remote skill set and starting to network within the remote community for opportunities that
Mhm.
even sometimes it's unpaid that offer you to build that experience, if you're starting from zero, so that you can turn that into paid work, right?
So what kind of
So
remote skill sets? Like, what skills should they try to learn online?
yeah, so it's learning. I mean, remote tools are huge, right? So knowing what, especially if you're coming from a non laptop work environment like construction, say, right? So it's learning remote tools, like even just getting familiar with, say, Slack, um, Zoom, all of these that we operate on remotely. And
Hmm.
then it's by industry or by role, it's learning core skills, of course, related to that specifically. So it depends, but for example, there is, I believe it's through I mean, just all of our different learning platforms, like Udemy, for example, taking online trainings and certification courses related to the industry that they're planning to enter. And another resource is there's often kind of remote career fairs offered online. FlexJobs often presents those types of events where it's gaining familiarity with the industry, different types of companies, which can also give someone who's starting from zero kind of an idea of different roles that they would want to do remotely by attending those and seeing what companies are present and networking with others virtually who are attending.
Okay. So what are some of the careers where you've gotten people placed? Like what seems to be working? Where do you see most people finding opportunities?
Yeah, my clients tend to be all over, but a huge and a popular role remotely is customer success. So that's a big one. I still do have clients who are in the hybrid space or who are making just career transitions and pivots. So it's kind of a blend. I often get clients in the work with clients in the human resource space. That was my background. Project management is also huge. Uh, Also a popular remote role. It kind of can span all over, but I would say customer success is a role that I my clients often decide that's the path they're going to take, and it's also
Mhm.
a very popular remote role.
So that's
Uh,
like an entry level kind of like, I mean, I guess everyone knows what customer success is. It's like you're probably answering the phones, answering emails for some kind of product, right? Um, is this typically with like larger companies, or is it a little bit, small companies and you kind of like invent yourself the role, or are there companies that hire a lot of remote customer success kind of support people?
yeah, it can really vary. It's not necessarily low level. You can be a senior level in that, and it's kind of it also can be, it has a lot of similarities to the title of account manager, which is you could be working with larger corporate clients, and you're making sure, like, it's basically keeping your clients very happy with your product and potentially upselling them so they can continue to stay with you. So there's varied levels for customer success, but uh, yeah, it's definitely maintaining and building client relationships.
Okay. And how are these things structured? Like, is it a W-2 or is it a contract? Is it per hour, per week?
It depends. I mean, if it's a work from anywhere role for companies to provide that flexibility, it's often contract roles, right? But if it's, say, remote US, that could definitely be a W-2 role. It depends on the company and how they operate offering remote roles.
Okay. And what are you kind of seeing as a salary range?
All over the board. Honestly, it depends again on the seniority level, the role, like it it can be all over.
Okay. What's like the lower bounds? Like, what should someone like not accept a role below a certain price if they're, like a Canadian or American passport holder?
See, I this question is, I think, so dependent on the person. I wouldn't want to say a number for someone because people have different values in terms of what salary is good to them or what they choose as a level that is comfortable for their standard of living. So these types of questions, again, I think are so, a lot actually of these questions I feel are unique, and this is why coaching is important, is to understand what someone's target is and what is core to them before saying that this is what it should be, right? Because what I think is
Right,
a,
right. But there's like a market price.
but yes, and that also depends on the level. It depends on um, the role. There's not. I don't think I could give a standardized for all of the market rate.
Interesting. Okay. And are there specific industries where a customer success role or a product management role might make the most sense? Like, are you targeting um, like
Oh,
internet
mhm.
businesses, like, I don't know, like internet marketing type companies, or could it be like American healthcare companies or random American manufacturing companies, or are there certain types of industries that you find are clicking well for a lot of people in terms of landing these entry level roles?
Great question. I feel like tech is huge, right? I mean, there have been a lot of layoffs in tech over the past year, but especially for remote, newer companies too, newer industries often are starting remotely now. So I would say tech is a huge area, especially for roles like customer success. But
Mm,
this, like, remote is so dynamic over the past year. I'm constantly reading new updates, new guidance, new statistics. It's constantly evolving, right? I'm sure you've seen that too.
Definitely. Yeah. So you're calling in from San Francisco today. So you're probably bringing a little bit of that Silicon Valley mindset, which is good. It's actually one that's very welcomed because that's kind of like the highest performing and ideally highest paid sector of kind of the making money online space. And so are you kind of seeing that with these Silicon Valley companies and American tech companies, those are good places to get these customer support roles? I would think those would be some of the most competitive, like maybe it's customer success for, I don't know, Expedia or something like that, right? Like kind of these larger, potentially public companies.
Yeah, I think it's all over. I mean, if we're talking remote, like it's not limited to Silicon Valley, and if we've seen a lot of big tech companies are doing return to office, not all, but big tech companies like Meta, Amazon, Google, right, have done return to office hybrid models now. So I wouldn't limit it to Silicon Valley. I would say like this is why I love how with remote there's I mean, growing remote job boards, right? Companies are all over the place now that offer remote. And I think tech as an industry is often a remote friendly industry,
Definitely.
right? That's where a lot of opportunities are. But that um, Silicon Valley definitely are a lot of remote opportunities based here, but larger Silicon Valley tech companies we've noticed have been having some return to office mandates. So
Yeah. Screw
like
them.
I said, it's constantly evolving right now.
Hate those guys. Uh, I'm joking. No, it's good to be aware of these trends. So, speaking of job boards, let's talk a bit about job boards. You know, there's Dynamite Jobs, Tropical MBA, previous podcast guest. There's Remote
Nice.
OK. There's probably at this point dozens of online job boards specific for remote jobs. You know, LinkedIn is still the perennial winner in a lot of ways. Or what do you have any recommendations, and do you have any favorites in terms of favorite job boards?
Yeah, I like this one called Auta, but they can tend to be heavy US focused,
Okay,
but
that's fine.
honestly,
Auto. How do you spell auto?
OTTA,
Okay.
auta.com. Um, definitely remote. Remote code's been flex jobs. We work remotely. I have a full list. And there's Find Async. It was awesome. I met the founders in Medellin while I was there, and they focus on asynchronous remote roles. It's honestly growing like I had said, like the ever evolving remote world.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there's just the beauty is there's now the growing plethora of remote job boards. The key is making sure to vet the opportunities for legitimacy. And one thing about, say, flex jobs is all of their roles are vetted to be sure they're legit. So you can guarantee that you
Okay.
don't
This
have,
is flexjobs.com.
yeah, that you don't have scams on their job board. They
Okay.
also, I believe, are connected to remote.co. Um, and I know a lot of the more well-known job boards do make a lot of effort, right, to filter these jobs, but
Hmm.
some of the other newer boards, you just got to be proceed with caution because you don't want to get hit by a remote job scan and put all this effort in applying for a role that's a scam. Um,
Yeah, it's trippy. Like it's trippy how you have to give away so much personal information before,
and
like getting
don't
an offer.
don't do it like before. Be very careful
Oh
with
my God,
that.
they're like, what's your address? What's your social security? It's
Definitely
insane.
not dropping the social security
Yeah.
until you know for sure that that's legit, you know?
Okay. So I'm looking at remote.co. I'm looking at all of them. So I'm looking at Auto. I'm looking at Flex Jobs. I'm looking at remote.co. You mentioned another one, something
Find a
async, find async.
yeah, that's another.
Interesting
Um,
topic that we could mention. What is async?
yeah,
So I'm looking at remote.co, and it's saying recent remote jobs. So design, customer service, teaching, virtual assistant, editing, accounting
yeah,
and finance, marketing, healthcare, IT, developer, HR recruiter, data entry, sales, legal, writing, QA, product manager. So about half of these are kind of non-technical,
Mm-hmm.
and then about half are technical. So let's just say someone was basically a construction worker. They could do customer service, they could do virtual assistant, they could maybe do teaching, they could maybe do HR recruiter, maybe marketing. They could definitely do sales. They could probably do data entry, remote writing, product manager. So there's kind of like a bunch of different tracks here. And I,
Exactly.
and I feel like for someone to be the most successful with, uh, they might want to pick a track, right?
So this is I'm so glad you're saying this because this is exactly what I was going back to when you were asking me the question of like where is best for someone, say who's a construction worker to go, right? It's that they can choose, right? No, I mean, it's going to take a transition, but like I couldn't tell them what's best for them. This is why coaching is important to help them uncover what they want, them to choose the track. So it's of course helping them identify the track and then creating the plan to go after it because there's an expansive world of remote now, right? In terms of what's offered there. So it's
Hmm.
identifying what it is they want first, that clarity, and then mapping out that plan of action to get there.
Hmm. And are you finding that a lot of these jobs they want you to stay in the US, or are they okay with you being in Mexico, for example?
So that's what's getting tricky with the changes in remote, over the past year is there are what I do tend to see looking at these job boards is more remote US opportunities now, of course, than remote work from anywhere. So there are, I think, a lot of companies limiting it to US tax purposes, very likely.
Right.
So but again, there are work from anywhere opportunities where they're listed as work from anywhere. Of course, it's highly competitive because it's more limited, but it's constantly changing. It's hard to say what's more or less. These are the stats I want to find, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely makes sense. And when you look at the non-technical tracks, some of them might lend themselves better to upward career advancement, or, doing
Hmm.
something maybe more entrepreneurial or whatever in the future. Do you have any personal favorites if you had to choose between virtual assistant and customer service
Mm.
and maybe sales? What would you take?
You mean to like as a building block for independent, like an independent future?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think no one's final goal is to be like a remote virtual assistant for
Yes.
Yahoo, but like maybe that's a good start.
And who knows, maybe someone's goal is that. But yes, I hear you. But yeah, so I would say that I think sales and marketing, I mean customer support, all of those areas are fundamental pieces that support being fully independent in building something. I mean, especially thinking virtual, like marketing, digital marketing. You can if you learn that, you can really create something if your expertise is there. I mean, sales is part of almost everything, right? Um, sometimes even as a coach, I wish I had more of a foundation in that because I was in the HR space, right? Um, even though like starting in HR and moving into what I do now, there's so many connection points, right?
Hmm.
Recruiting to career
You,
coaching.
you don't do HR, do you?
In when I worked in Silicon Valley Tech, I was in HR,
You were in
yes,
HR. Okay, cool.
and in recruiting specifically.
Hey guys, quick interruption to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill is the best way to convert your crypto into gift card balances. These are gift cards that you can spend at hotels.com, Airbnb, Nike, and many more. You may remember Joel Valenzuela, previous podcast guest. He's been living on crypto exclusively since 2015, and he's a big consumer of Bitrefill. And so I asked Joel, I said, what do you like most about Bitrefill? He said that he likes the instant delivery, the precise amount so that you don't have to juggle a lot of gift cards, and he loves the global selection. Nobody else has this much selection of gift cards, over 10,000 gift card options across hundreds of countries. Go to bitrefill.com to sign up, and you can also use the code MyLatinLife for 10% back off your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information.
So I had a thought, which would be, are some of these jobs doable on the side? So let's say you have a normal 9 to 5, maybe in person. Maybe you have that. I don't know why we were using construction, but it works. So let's just say you have the 9 to 5 construction job. Can you come home and do like 4 hours of the customer success? And that way it's not like a full burn the boats approach, because a lot of people kind of need to keep making money, either paycheck to paycheck or,
Yeah.
whatever. They can't really fully quit to do customer success, or at least they're very afraid to do that if they're not sure it's going to work. So maybe you can kind of start them evenings and weekends, and get like a side income going.
Yeah, I mean, think about remote work in the different places, like the different time zones, like I believe that's possible if finding the right opportunity that allows it. Yes. And I think it's happening. People are doing I mean, I just read this article about people who are juggling. I'm not saying I'm advocating for this in any way, but there are people juggling multiple remote jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you read that
We
art? Have you seen about that?
we had the job stacking guy on the
Yeah.
podcast a couple times. It's been one of our more popular episodes. Fun fact: we're actually recording a part 3 later tonight. Me and the job stacking guy. We've done 2 podcasts.
So that's what I read all about, and I was just like amazed by how people are managing.
Yes. And especially for some of these customer success and these like virtual assistant ones, they seem so easy to me. It seems like very possible to stack a couple of them.
Yeah, it just I mean also just knowing how to manage those hours. It sounds because if you're it depends on the roles that you're stacking, I guess.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, we've talked about this a bit actually. Me and J. Rolf Holtze, author of Job
Mm-hmm.
Stacking, that he was doing QA roles before, where he had to write scripts, write some JavaScript, test web pages. But the issue was there was like this expectation of like daily output of new code, and it made it a little bit harder to job stack. But there are a lot of roles like product management and customer success and stuff where you're basically just like talking, and like attending meetings and doing some emails, and it's kind of like easier to get away with job stacking. Anyway, this is a whole other
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean with that like related to what you were just asking about, it I people are doing it, and if someone wants I mean there's also part-time remote work if it's
right. So I guess
possible.
basically anything that could be job stacked could be done as a side job and vice versa. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if, and I think it's good to have supplemental pieces of income. Like really a lot of the digital nomads I know in person, they do 2 or 3 things. Like
Mhm.
they have like some sales job and that brings in a couple grand a month, and then they have some other job where they do SEO for some guy and that makes a couple grand a month. And so people kind of, I don't know too many people that only have one job and just stick to that. Most people kind of have their hands in a couple different pots.
Yeah, and it shows just like the flexibility and agility of this lifestyle, right?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Also, Latin America. I would love to chat about it a bit.
Let's do it. So you lived in Argentina. I'm actually drinking some yerba mate right now.
No way, you're a mate fan.
I'm a big mate fan. Yeah.
Did you live or spend time in Argentina?
Yeah, Argentina, and then more Paraguay. Spent a lot of time in Paraguay. Was there recently, and brought back several kilos of mate with me to Mexico.
Nice. So I enjoy mate, but I would call myself a guest mate drinker. Like I don't make my own mate, but I love
Yeah.
I love the activity and like with friends in the park sharing mate.
Hmm.
Yes. But I love Buenos
social latte
Aires in
drinker.
Argentina. I love like the culture there, and mate is one piece of that. Um, but yeah, I just love Argentine culture.
What do you like about it?
I think it's just I love the passion when Argentines speak. Um, I love the sound of the language. Even like with traveling to new countries, I'm trying to maintain the Argentine accent to not lose it. Although I've been traveling a lot of this year outside of Argentina, so I need to like brush up on getting it back. I love asados. I feel like it's a passionate and very um, resilient culture, given what happens.
Hmm.
I did you see they just had their new elected president this week?
Yeah, absolutely, Millet.
Yeah, so um yeah, I
Do you follow
mean,
me on Twitter?
I will be now.
You better. I'm calling you out. Don't worry. It's all casual. It's all good vibes. But yeah, so our Twitters are our most active. Our X is our most active social media profile by far. And yeah, there's a lot of discussion going on. Been tweeting about the this election.
Nice.
I'll use this time to actually shout out. So we have a number of free Telegram groups. I think a lot of the listeners are already aware of this. And we have the main group, and then we have country specific groups. And there is an Argentina country group. It's free to join. There's over 300 people in there right now talking about, how to change money and what neighborhood to stay. And it's a chat. So people are helping each other and everything like that. So if people have an interest in Argentina, and basically just connecting with people in general over Telegram. We have tons of free groups, and the link is in the show notes for the episode.
Love that.
Yeah. So, Kristen, you can get in there too for Argentina or Mexico, whatever you want.
Yeah. So I just had a full circle moment back here in San Francisco this past weekend related to Latin culture, because I found out coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, when I got back here, they had like a salsa bachata zouk congress in the Bay, um, and I went to it. It was the first. Have you heard of congresses by the concept?
No, not really.
It's basically like a dance conference where they bring teachers from all over to give workshops, and then they have like performances and competitions and things. So one of my Latin America bucket list items, since I have grown to like salsa bachata and zouk, was to join one of these in Latin America. But by chance it was happening here. So what was super cool is to be home and like have all these Latin cultures within this congress, and taking classes from like Brazilian teachers that knew the teachers I learned from when I was in Rio, say. And so it was just like this crazy full circle moment back home that was really unexpected. Um, but it just reminded me also being here and experiencing like these Latin teachers present, how much I love Latin America, like just
Hmm.
the warmth of the cultures. And yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, let's speak to that a little bit. Like, tell me a little bit more. It's hard to capture. It's something we try to do on the podcast and on Twitter, is capture that energy and that vibe of Latin America. How do you explain it to your friends and family?
Yeah, so I was really reflecting on it this weekend at this event, because there was, it was back home in American culture with all of these different Latin culture, like teachers flew out for this event, right? And I just feel like the second the Brazilian because Zouk is Brazilian, so the Brazilian teachers would enter to start teaching, I felt like the energy and I felt like at home with it, because that's what I feel in Latin America so deeply, is just this like extreme warmth
Hmm.
and like openness and positive. It's just like positive and it's like radiant almost. And so I was like loving when these Brazilian instructors were teaching, because you could just like feel it. They just like radiate that energy of the warmth and openness that I deeply felt in Brazil, right?
And what were they teaching the Brazilians? Like
So
samba?
Zouk
Zouk?
is
What is
the dance.
Zouk?
Yeah, have you seen it?
Z-U-K? Z-O-O-K?
Zouk.
Z-O-U-K. Okay.
So it's
Musical
a flowy
movement
dance.
from Martinique. It's like French origin.
Yeah, and then it made its way to Brazil, and
Brazilian Zouk. Okay. A
yes,
partner dance.
yes. So it's my new obsession for dance.
Evolved from lambada. You know the song
Mhm.
Dana Lambada, eh, Dana Lambada, oh. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, but yeah, it's like it kind of has remnants of bachata, but Brazilians say that it's actually the opposite, that bachata took from zouk, um but yeah, it's like it's something where I enter flow state with. So I've grown to like I I love it because you get into flow and it's super dynamic. There's so much to learn, and yeah, this conference had a ton of teachers that offer that. And so I had planned to try out like take salsa and bachata classes, and I ended up just doing that all 3 days.
Hmm.
Um, but no, what really what really stood out to me is just, and I want to know your opinion on this too, but how you can feel like the warmth of Latin culture when you're in it. And then here I was away from it, but I could feel it when these teachers entered, right? So I'm curious how that feels for you, because for me it's so like I'm so aware of it now when I'm out of it and I, for example, here back home and experience it.
Yeah, absolutely. Random question is in Brazil, do they call it Zuki or Zouk?
I believe Zouk, but maybe in Portuguese I've only heard Zouk,
Vamos, vamos bailar o Zuki. I don't
but
know.
potentially, with Portuguese and the accent.
Yeah. Okay. Well, TBD on that. But no, I guess my answer is yeah. I mean, it's just a more happy, joyful culture, and they just, I don't know, they're just all smiles, and I feel the energy when I'm in Latin America. I feel like my energy levels double, and
Mhm.
everyone's happier, everyone's more social, and I think one thing that's cool about what you're talking about is the hobbies that you develop in Latin America. Maybe you're dancing salsa, other communities like that. Maybe you're training jujitsu or something. These skill sets, you can find communities wherever you go in the world. So you learn the skill set, you learn salsa in Latin America, you take some lessons, and then anywhere you go in the world, there's going to be salsa, and that helps you kind of maybe um, get into a new community and start making friends quicker.
1,000%. And that literally has been what I use traveling to find community, especially local. Like, because I like to connect with locals and really immerse. And dance has been the vehicle for me for that. And I think it doesn't have to be dance, right? For others, it could be a sport like football, or it could be, stand up comedy or like improv. There's so many different
Have you
passions
done
you can
stand
find.
up? We were talking about this. Have you done it?
No, I am not. That is, I enjoy watching it, but that's not my, it's not my thing, say.
Okay, you're
Do
a
you,
dancer.
yes, I'm a social dancer, I guess. I'm not here for like getting to competition level, but just for like the fun and the flow. Um, what has it been for you traveling?
For me, it changes, but I would say sports are big. Yeah, so I would say sports. Dance, I would like to do. Tell me your thoughts on this though. Is I feel like with dance, you need more than 1 month per city. Like if you do 1 month per city, you're really only going to get maybe 4, 6 lessons, and it's not enough time to build momentum. I feel like if you want to learn salsa or dance, you might want to commit like 2, 3, 4 months to a city and not just one.
1,000% to this too. Yes, like it takes time. Um, And it also takes time to build community, let's be real. Like, it doesn't happen a week in a city, right? So I would say, like, it I like to travel at least 3 months in each place for the community building. And for dance, it's a journey to grow. Like, I've been learning since the year I moved abroad, more or less.
That's cool. Are you trying to get like a certification for the dance? 'Cause-
It's too funny because being at that event this weekend, I was like, I am not like here to compete or like perform. I'm just like here for the fun. So no, my whole goal with dance is it's a way to tap into femininity. It's a way to um, connect. It's its own language. So for me, it's all for the fun, for connection, and for flow. It really like it brings me into flow state, which I think is one of the most like beautiful states we can be in. I mean, curious, flow, yeah, like that feeling.
Mhm,
Yeah, and I think that it's important for us all to find that because it's like meditation.
definitely. Um, sort of speaking of flow, not really, but what's it like being in Latin America? Or sorry, what's it like being in San Francisco or coming back to the United States after being in Latin America? This is another thing that's hard to capture, but
Oof.
it's a very real thing where it's like reverse culture shock where you've been in Latin America for 4 6 months plus. You come back to the U.S., everything's like a little bit weird, and maybe people are less friendly or like all these other things. Like, what's kind of your experience been kind of with the reverse culture shock?
It's like me getting in an Uber every time saying hola and gracias. No.
Yeah,
um, it's funny to me how like the language transition is
yeah, I do that
always
too. I do that too, especially on like the planes, because it'll be like your first plane will be like gracias, and then you'll have like a layover in the States, and you forgot to switch to the thank you with the flight attendant.
Yeah, last night I was with a friend and I said ciao to the Uber driver and she was like, "Why did you say ciao?" I was like, "That's what I say all the time." And she's like, "Does he speak Spanish?" Or I was like, "I don't know, but I say that all the
I
time."
say ciao in English.
Yeah, I mean, I just use it all the time now, but it was
Yeah.
funny because it was one of those moments. But you know what I was thinking about this trip is how it's interesting how it's been evolving for me each visit home. And this one, it's almost like I've gotten familiar with the feeling of the change. So it didn't feel as intense this trip. Um, but in the past, I mean, I still feel it every time. But when I first moved abroad and would come home, it was really drastic for me. And it was really overwhelming. And I'm like a highly sensitive person. So I feel things very deeply. And it honestly always takes the transition of like, okay, I'm no longer there. I'm here and it's different, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it also has given me even more appreciation for Latin America and how much I love culturally a lot of the values and how it feels being there.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on kind of social circles, making new friends? Have you found as a oftentimes female solo traveler or at least female traveler in Latin America, are you able to, do you feel intimidated trying to make friends or do you find it easier to make friends in Latin America than the States?
Yeah, I feel like I do find it easier there now than I would say here. Maybe it's because I've been out of here for so long, it feels. But I would say like this lifestyle in living abroad has been a journey to knowing a much deeper understanding of who my people are, like where I want to make friends, like who aligns with me. And so, and the resources to do that. So when I get to a place, I automatically kind of know where to go to find my people, like whether it's dance or like more spiritual community, which is a core part of me, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I like thankfully for nomadic life, we know there's all these resources, right? Um, but like the groups, the Facebook, WhatsApp, and knowing maybe a person in the place who connects me with a group or connects me with an event. But for me, it's evolved into really dance because I love connecting with locals. I love growing in dance. And so I find classes and events and then just kind of like try to become a regular. So then I grow into the community.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Quick break from the podcast to tell you about Language Blend, the best new way to learn Spanish. Language Blend was co founded by Jake Nomada, friend of the podcast, decade of experience in Latin America. And Jake and his team, they put everything into this program that they wish they had in terms of how to level up quickly with your Spanish language skills. Because the faster that you can get conversationally fluent in Spanish, the better the experience that you're going to have in Latin America. So go to languageblend.com for more information.
One thing I've noticed is making plans is a lot easier in Latin America. It's like, hey, let's hang out. And they're like, sure, today, tomorrow, Thursday. Whereas like in the States, it's like this week is busy, maybe next week.
Mm, so true. Also, getting invited to plans. Do you feel this of like, oh,
Mm.
come to dinner at my family's or like let's my friends and I are doing this, like come join us, that type of thing.
Yeah, kind of more, it's like easier to break into social circles, or they're just more into inviting you to events where you might not get the invitation in the States, just because they
Exactly.
might think, oh, it's not like a thing for friends, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's this openness and desire to like make sure you're having a good time or you feel I mean, it can vary by country too, I would say, like the amount of this, but it's wanting you to feel like you're enjoying the country or like their home, and inviting you into pieces of their culture. Like, I think of an example is when I was taking these zoo classes in Rio, the teachers invited me out, and they would teach me about like the foods we were eating, and then like I was meeting I mean, I did not speak Portuguese by the way, so that was a challenge, but the like wanting to show you more of their culture, and to bring you in. And that's what I think is so special.
100% agree. So, how do you think about how you're spending your time in the future? Are you splitting it between the
Mhm.
US and Latin America? Have you decided on a base?
Great question. This is something that's super present with me right now. So, um, I, I mean, as I shared and as we've talked about, I really love Argentina. It's like a home to me now. And this year, I was doing slow travels that I kind of mapped out based on very close people in my life's weddings that I committed to going and wanted to be at. So this year was a year of slow travel and movement. Like you mentioned at the start, I was in Spain for part of it too. But I am really noticing, and I'm about going to share about this soon, but I crave like my community again. And I mean, Latin America feels like home to me. And so I'm my plans as of now, which in this lifestyle we know they can shift fast, but are to go back to Buenos Aires and um, be based there again and do some travel like close by, very slowly.
This is interesting. So, you feel like Spain, for everything it has going for it, there's maybe something missing in the vibe, and you think Latin America feels more like home?
So I stay open to Spain. I do really like Spain, but I do find this when I left Spain this year and when I went from there to Colombia, I there's something about Latin America that feels slightly different to me than Spain. And I feel more at home in Latin America, to be honest. I think that's something I'm clear on. But I don't say that that couldn't be the case in Spain. I feel more of the energy of home right now at this time in Latin America.
I
Have you
tend
done
to
both?
agree. I have done both. I have done both. I don't know. I think Europe gets boring after a while. Latin America never gets boring.
Yeah, it has it's so yeah, I don't know how to put words to it.
That's it. Um, cool. Any last kind of topics or things you wanted to mention before we start wrapping up?
No, I think we've covered a lot, but I would just say that one thing I think is really that I'm experiencing currently to share very openly is how this lifestyle is, and that I'm aware of living this lifestyle for a few years, is how much it can evolve for you based on like your season of life and
Mm,
your needs and your desires, and how, if I have any advice from living it for this amount of time so far and continuing for, we'll see, is that accepting the change based on what you're wanting, and not questioning it, like allowing yourself to evolve and change with, if you feel like you desire something different, which for me currently is like, I want to be in one place for a while. Like I want my community back, and like my grounded to be grounded in one culture, say, for a bit, um like that feeling of having your base, you know. And so yeah, so that's what I'm welcoming in the next year.
yeah, I agree with that too. I think there's something for everyone. I think there's something for the single guy or girl. I think there's
Mhm.
something for families with young kids. I think there's something for retirees. I think actually all life stages work well for Latin
Mhm.
America.
Agree. Agree. And there's something unique in every country to be offered. Like each place has its charm or special qualities.
Yeah, 100%. And what was I going to say to that? Yeah, all life stages work. I guess the common unifying theme is the option's only going to be there if you take those steps towards making money online. And
Mhm.
one thing we talk about a lot on Twitter is how people should be willing to take a pretty significant pay cut to work online if that's what it takes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, when I went remote, I took a cut for sure. I was in San Francisco, let's be real, you know? Um and it was 1,000, and like it was beyond worth it.
100%, especially when you consider the lower cost of living, etc. It basically works out even from a financial perspective, but then you're just living a more interesting life. You have so many more opportunities. So yeah, I think the first thing for everyone is they just need to get some remote income streams going. Kristen,
Yes.
I wanted to get like one last quick question, squeak it in. So LinkedIn versus all these other sites, do you still use
Mm.
LinkedIn, or are you like, screw LinkedIn, it's oversaturated. Now I'm totally on Flex Jobs and Ada and Remote.co and all this other stuff, or is LinkedIn still a piece of the puzzle?
LinkedIn is definitely still a piece of the puzzle, honestly. I would say it's a mix of all of these. It's like, especially if you're someone serious about getting a remote job, it's like looking all the like different things are posted in different places. I worked at a company where we were posting remote jobs. Sometimes we posted this board and this board and not that board, right? So really looking across the boards. And then I post a monthly, I'm going to get back on it. I missed a month, but job board list on LinkedIn of remote job boards, right? So it's bookmarking these job boards and looking across. And then another thing to share related to this is, don't only look at job boards, look at company career pages of the companies you're targeting,
Hmm.
because not all companies post to the job boards.
True, true. And do you do more of like a spray and pray, or do you focus on like 10, 20 companies and ruthlessly follow up with them and DM people that work there? Or how do you think about it?
Um, I love the spray and pray mention. Um, no, I think it's, I mean, getting clear on what you want, like company culture wise, having your target. Spray and pray could be, I mean, it's a strategy, but I would say like get aligned and really focus and target. And
Focus targeting is
focus
better than
targeting
spray and pray.
also. Also authentic connecting, like authentic connection. Like when you authentically connect with someone at the company with their mission, like that's what stands out. spraying and praying doesn't give that authentic connection, right? Unless you're really actively, if unless you're focused spraying, I don't know.
Got it. Got it. Cool. So how would you focus your time between, like, cause in the past I was like almost 100% LinkedIn. I thought these little job boards were,
Mm,
I thought there was like, I thought, I kind of thought that maybe the little job boards were actually getting a lot of applications for the small amount of jobs that they had. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Maybe it's a little different now. Like, where do you think is it more oversaturated? Is it more oversaturated on LinkedIn or on, say, Flex Jobs in terms of like the number of applications per role?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, LinkedIn is like one of, when I talk to clients and ask them where they're looking, and even when I have new clients and I have calls and I say, "Where are you looking for remote jobs?" Everyone says LinkedIn first, or almost everyone, to be honest.
Hmm.
So, I mean, LinkedIn is, but it's still such a valuable resource, even if there's a lot of like, it's not about the number of applicants anytime. It's about how you're going about your applying, right? Um, but I really like, LinkedIn is very reliable, so is Flex Jobs. I would say focus, if it's a matter of which ones to focus on, make sure that these are the boards with reliable jobs, right? Like avoiding the scams is a key because you don't want to waste your time applying for a scam.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I found LinkedIn to be pretty good. Maybe it's gotten like a little bit more scammy. I remember recently I just like randomly applied to like 100 jobs just for like the hell of it. Just I was just like blindly clicking like while I was on a call or something. And then my phone started blowing up with like random phone calls like the next day, but like
Wow.
not from employers, like spam stuff where they like call you in Spanish type stuff. And
Oh no.
I wasn't getting any of that until I started applying on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think also applying with caution, like vetting out the jobs. But another thing is, don't forget about the features on LinkedIn that can benefit you to passively, which is like the job alerts. And now they have a feature where you can go to the company page of a company you're really interested in and mention your interest, so they can know you're interested in roles at their company.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think one of my takeaways here is like, maybe it is time to start using some of these smaller job boards again and fade LinkedIn a little bit or make it only like one piece of the puzzle instead of fully relying on it.
Yeah, I would say that is like letting it, many buckets to use as a resource.
Hmm. I think I've said last question a couple times, but I'll ask one more. Would you recommend people have like multiple versions of their resumes for multiple tracks
Mm.
and like do like I have my customer service resume and I have my sales resume and they're obviously crafted a little bit different. Like even the job stacking guy, I think you mentioned this on the last time we did. He has two different LinkedIn's with like slight variations of his name, and one of them is like a product manager LinkedIn, and one of them is a QA LinkedIn. And so he's kind of like applying to different jobs with different LinkedIn profiles.
No way. Oh my, wow. Like, interesting. I'm like, this guy. He's got some ideas. No. Um but yeah, I would say, wait, I just lost your question there. Oh, resumes. Yes.
Multiple resumes or just one resume, stay focused is
So
probably the
here's
best way to
what I'll
start it.
say is, and this is gonna maybe not be the thing you love to hear, and I often say this to clients, and it's just every job you apply for, technically, if you're applying to stand out, needs a unique resume. So you definitely, like, that's a tip I have, is that you need to tailor your resume. And I know you've probably heard this guidance, but like really targeting your resume for the job. So 1,000% you need a different resume for a customer success role versus a marketing or a sales role, right?
Yep, makes
Because,
sense.
and of course you can create like, okay, a customer success resume template based on one role, and like use that to help guide you applying for other roles, but you're always going to want to tweak it because every job description is unique.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Multiple copies of the resume.
So I would
Cool.
say a yes to having those different versions, and make sure you name them and save them so you can use them as a resource as you're applying for others.
Cool. So, Kristen, if someone wants to hire you to be their remote career coach, lifestyle coach, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I offer 45-minute consults so that they can get to know me and make sure we vibe, which is important. And so I have a link for that on my LinkedIn. And so they schedule a call. We have It's a bit of coaching, it's a bit of me getting to deeply understand their needs and make sure we're a good match. And then as long as that flows and it is a great match, we get started. And I have a program focused on finding aligned remote work, but I also offer other coaching packages separate from that program.
Awesome. And I noticed you have like 25,000 followers on LinkedIn. That must be your biggest platform.
It is. I've taken a pause for the past month while I was traveling in Mexico, actually. Um, but I really grew on LinkedIn this past year by sharing a lot about remote work, about this lifestyle, and I'm getting ready to start sharing more content again. I just needed, gosh, content creation, it takes a lot of energy. And now I'm gonna get back at it. But yeah, I grew a ton and it's honestly been amazing, not just for finding like people to support that are very aligned, but also like I've met amazing people through LinkedIn, no joke. And I've met them virtually and then we've met in person and it's just been the coolest thing of this lifestyle is like the virtual to in real life. I don't know if you've probably experienced that too with the podcast.
Yeah, we've done meetups and stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, LinkedIn it's been a spot for me to be honest, but it's like it's been eye-opening how like sharing openly can really connect you with people for in many ways, like work like support with my business, but also just great friendships.
That's amazing. So we'll be sure to link your LinkedIn in the show notes and people can get in touch with you that way. Kristen, wanted to thank you again for your time. This was an interesting delve into the remote coach lifestyle and I guess kind of how some good actionable tips on how people can get their first remote job. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you for having me. I loved chatting more about it and about Latin America. I know you share the passion and yes, and I would say the last like words of wisdom are like patience and resilience in the process. Remote work is competitive, right? But when you really focus on that end goal and put in the work and take action, that's where the results follow. And that was my journey to going remote. Like it was a challenging transition, but I stayed patient and worked really hard after, and that's what's grown into what it is now. So it's worth it. It's very worth it.
Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, my guest today was Kristin Vierra, remote career and lifestyle coach. Thanks everyone for listening.